Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Curtis, and today I'm going to do a review for Sistas, Season 9, Episode 12. The episode starts off with Sabrina and Danny having a conversation with Lisa and Aaron on the phone about Karen. Sabrina, she is very concerned. She's very worried. She's like, oh my God, what if she did something to herself? What if she did something to the baby? Like, she's just throwing out all of these, like, what if this happened? And so, of course, Danny's like, you know what, let's just kind of work through this. Let's not think that way. And so she starts to ask them, have you reached out to this person? Have you reached out to that person? And they say, we did reach out to a couple of people, but some people did not answer, including Andy. And so Sabrina's like, okay, let me try to think positive. She's like, well, you know what? Maybe she took the baby on a trip. And Danny's like, I'm not really sure. Maybe something else, something a little bit different. And so they're like, you know what? Maybe what we should do is we should actually come over to the house, so we'll be there in a few moments. We go to Andy's house, and it becomes quite clear that Gary does not respect boundaries because Andy, she is trying her best to like move away from him to the point that she actually starts running around the table and he starts running behind her as if it's like normal. It's like, brother, Gary, it's clear that she does not want you in her space like that. Like, it's bad enough that you are in her place right now, like physically inside of her place. But the fact that you keep following her around is going to make her nervous and make her scared. Like, bro, back up, like, calm down. He's like, I'm just here for peace. But it's like, brother, do you remember the last situation that we were in? Like, no. Like, I don't want to be around you. Andy is just like, look, you need to leave. He's like, listen, this is going to be 5 minutes. She's like, listen, anything that you have to say to me is going to fall on deaf ears, so it really doesn't matter. Like, just go. He's like, listen to me. I just want to explain myself. I just want to make things right. I just want to go over everything in detail so you know exactly where I was coming from. Like, please just give me 5 minutes. All I need is 5 minutes. Please, please, I'm begging you. Andy's like, you know what, fine. If you want to say what you need to say, just do it. Like, I already told you it's going to fall on deaf ears, but if you want to waste your time talking, just do it. And he's like, you know what, let me just say this. I regret everything that I did when it comes to our relationship. And the reason why I even did everything that I did within our relationship is because I was jealous. I was a narcissist. And she's like, don't forget that you were a master manipulator. And he was like, yeah, that too. But it's like, you know what? I really do hate everything that I put you through. And she's like, you know what? Stop. Because you and I have had this conversation plenty of times. Like, how many times are you going to tell me the same thing? Like, I do not believe you. I do not believe anything that you're saying. You are still the same person. Gary's just like, look, when it comes to the things that we have been through in the past, I do not expect you to forget it, but I do hope that one day you will have it in your heart to forgive me. And then also, I will hope that you would think more about the good times opposed to the bad times. And this is the time where they decided to show like flashbacks. It was similar to the one that they showed of Zach and Karen, and it showed flashback of the good times that they had. But the thing about those flashbacks is that they really do not mean anything because we got to think about what happened, before, which was the fact that Andy experienced a shooting. Like, she experienced something traumatic, and that's something that has been affecting her. So it's like the flashback really doesn't mean anything. And Andy was clearly in agreement with me because she was just like, boy, I'm not about to sit up here and reminisce about the times that we had. Like, those days are over. Like, I do not care. Like, it really doesn't matter. And it's like, listen, I'm just trying to acknowledge, everything that I did, the damage that I caused, and that, you know what, I just want to have peace in my life, and I want you to have peace. And Andy says without saying that she really doesn't give a fuck about nothing that he's saying. And it's just like, listen, I know it's going to take some time, but I am going to make this right. I promise. We switched over to Zach and Fatima. If you all remember Fatima, she was in the driveway. She was having a conversation with Chaz. And then Zach was actually coming out of the house to confront Chaz. And so Fatima's trying to figure out like what exactly is going on. And then Zach, he actually walks up on the both of them and he's like, what's going on, what's happening. And he's like, I actually came to talk to Fatima. And so Zach actually walks up on him, and then Chaz is like, you think I'm afraid of your little goofy ass? He's like, goofy, bro, you are a cornball. And then he's like, well, you are a little man. And then next thing you know, his friend, so Chaz actually brought somebody with him, and he actually flashed a gun. And Zach was like, okay, and like, I got guns in the house, like, you think I'm scared of that? Shoot. Now that I think about it, Fatima probably got a gun on her, so it's not really that big of a deal that you were flashing a gun. And Fatima was like, listen, can you just go in the house and let me handle this? He was like, I'm not going in the house. So he actually walks up to the door, but he's definitely not going in the house. Now that Zach is like 15 feet away, Fatima and Chaz, they can have their conversation. And he's like, look, I came to check on you, and also I came to get the purse back because I know that the purse caused a lot of issues in your household. So Zach was like, okay, cool, I'll go get the purse. I'll be right back. And so while he's in the house looking for the purse, they continue to have the conversation as far as with Fatima and Chaz. And she's just like, look, you cannot be popping up at my house. Not only because I'm, engaged to Zach, but also just in general, you can't just be popping up at people's house. Like, what is wrong with you? And it's like, yeah, but I really like you. I'm really feeling you. And she's like, listen, I don't care what you are feeling. I don't care if you want to be in a relationship with me. This is a business relationship only. It is never going to be anything personal. I am engaged. I am happy. nothing will ever happen. So please do not ever come to my house, and please do not ever express the fact that you like me. Like, what is wrong with you? Zach comes back outside. He has a person. He basically like slams it to his chest. And he's like, "You need to get the fuck on." And as Chaz and his security guard walking away, Zach is talking crazy. He said, "Y'all need to get the fuck on. Give a fuck about none of that shit. I'll beat your ass. I'll beat your ass. I'll pull a gun. I'll do this. I'll do that. You better not bring your ass around here." And then he started calling them a couple because I think the security guard opened the door for Chaz. He's like, "Look at y'all. You a couple. You a bitch." He was talking crazy. I was like, "Oh shit." I actually thought that the security guard was going to turn around and maybe flash that gun again or pull it out, but he didn't. So I was just like, ooh, that could have been really bad. But you know what I was thinking during the scene? I know that Sistas and Zatima, they are separate entities. But the fact that Deja lives right next door, I was like, in real life, Deja would have brought her ass out to see what was going on. So I hated the fact that, she wasn't there for this moment. There was a quick scene after this in which Sabrina and Danny, they finally make it over to Karen's house. Of course, Karen's not there, Aaron's not there, Lisa's not there, but you know who is there? Pam. And so she says, you know what, they actually went out trying to look for Karen, but they will be right back. And so they asked Pam, have you spoken to Karen recently? And she was like, yeah, I did speak to Karen. Unfortunately, she was in that sad, depressed stage. But even with her being in that stage, I just feel like she would not do anything to hurt herself or hurt the baby. And so it's during this time that Pam actually gives them the note that Karen wrote. And so as they're reading it, they're just like, oh my God, I hope she didn't do anything to herself. Hope she didn't do anything to the baby. And then they were like, what we're going to do, we're going to actually go over to Andy's house. We try to reach out to Andy, but she did not answer. Maybe Karen went over there, so we're going to go over there to see if she's there. And if not, we'll be back. We go back to Zach and Fatima, and Zach starts asking her some really good questions. He's like, how did Chaz know where we live? So she tries to make an excuse, but her excuse doesn't make any sense. So he's like, once again, I want to ask you, how did he know, where we live? And she's like, well, I mean, he's a celebrity, he has connections, you know how that goes. And he's like, okay. He seemed really comfortable coming over here. And in fact, you two seem really close. Are you sure nothing else has happened? She's like, Zach, nothing has happened, I promise. He was like, has he ever disrespected you? And she was like, what are you talking about? He said, has he ever disrespected you? And she was like, well, I mean, he did flirt, but I shut it down every single time. Like, it wasn't anything too deep or anything too serious. Like, I shut it down every single time. Like, it was nothing like that. Zach is just like, okay. Well, let me just say this really quickly. If he brings his ass back around here, I'm going to shoot him. And if you all have watched the Tima, you know that he means what he says when he says that he's going to shoot him. We go back to Karen's house, and y'all, this scene, it irritated me just a little bit. And so Aaron and Lisa, they do arrive back at Karen's house. Pam is there, of course, and she lets them know that Danny and Sabrina came by, but they're going over to Andy's house to see if Karen is there. And so Lisa's like, okay, well, if Karen is not at Andy's house, then we'll call the police. And so Pam ends up leaving, and then Aaron's like, you know what? I cannot believe Karen. Like, she is so irresponsible. Like, how can she do this? Like, how can she leave without telling nobody? How can she leave with our daughter? Like, she is so irresponsible. And he actually starts to kind of break down a little bit. And then next thing you know, Lisa's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear you talk about my daughter like that. Like, why would you say that? Like, I don't want to hear that. And I said, wait a minute, hold on, Lisa. Listen to me. I understand that Karen is your daughter, but what I need you to understand is that when it comes to Faith, that is Aaron's daughter. So you cannot get upset with him and start chastising him because your daughter decided to leave without telling nobody. Like, let's keep it real for a second. This isn't just her just leaving on her own. She took the baby. How can you be upset at him for being upset at her when she took the baby and just left a note talking about something, this is the end of this chapter or whatever the fuck she said? Like, come on now. Don't sit up here and try to chastise him, talk to him, don't be talking about my daughter. I don't want to hear that shit. Shut up. All right, y'all, let me calm down for a second. I don't want you all to think I'm a woman hater and I'm just talking down on women, all this stuff and all that. I was just frustrated with the scene because I'm just like, how can you sit up here and get frustrated with him for worrying about his daughter when you were sitting up here worried about your daughter? Like, it's the contradiction for me. But anyways, to kind of like mellow it out really quickly, I guess I can just kind of touch on Maurice and Paige's brother. And so Maurice, he was a little nervous. He was doing a little much at the beginning, but he was able to calm down. And then eventually him and Paige's brother, they end up kissing. So you know what, good for him. And then also for those who do not know, this is a LGBTQIA friendly channel. So I was here for it. All right, y'all. So we go back to Andy and Gary, and y'all, the crazy thing about Sisters is that the scene that you see at the beginning of the episode is the scene that you're going to see at the end when it comes to the characters. So it's like, if you see them at the beginning at their house, you're going to see them at the end at their house. It's like Tyler is able to take one scene and stretch that shit out as far as he possibly can. But let's get back to the episode. Gary brings up the night of the shooting, and he brings up Jasmine's crazy ass. And Andy's like, you know what? When it comes to that particular situation, it's taking me some time. I'm still kind of going through it, but I am much better. And Gary's like, well, when it comes to me, I actually had to go to therapy like right afterwards because that was really crazy. And even though when it comes to Jasmine, she was a little bit weird, a little bit off, and she wasn't really my favorite person, she was still the mother of my kids. So therefore, I still had love and respect for her. So I hated that that situation ended the way that it did. And it's just like, you know what, when it comes to that particular night, that could have been prevented if you would have just left me alone. And she's like, you know what, I have a question for you. So when did you become this money laundering gangster? Like, when did you transition from the guy that I knew before, the super nice guy, to being this gangster all of a sudden? And he's like, well, you know what, when it comes to my life before, I felt like I was super nice and I did not get anywhere. So I decided to make some changes in my life because I felt like it would make me go further. But unfortunately, it led to, certain things happening. And I actually regret everything that happened. Andy tells him that she believes that it will be best if they just move on from each other. And he says, you know what, I agree. So I'm actually getting ready to leave. She's like, you getting ready to leave? He was like, yeah. So me and my kids were actually getting ready to leave the city. We're going to go somewhere else so we can have a fresh start. And you can look at her and see that she was actually sad, but she was able to actually kind of pull herself together a little bit. And then he was like, you know what, when it came to me coming over here, it wasn't just for me to apologize to you, but it was also for me to bid farewell to you because I'm getting ready to leave and I'm not coming back. So while these two are having their little heart to heart, Danny actually comes up. So she was in the elevator. She actually came up. And as soon as she saw Garrett, she's like, oh, hell no. So she went and she grabbed the vase and she started like walking around the table as if she was getting ready to hit him. And then she was like, Andy, I know for a fact that your dumb ass did not take this man back. Didn't you go to college? You taking him back? And so Gary, he realizes that Danny, she's not playing. She's getting ready to attack him. So he was like, listen, I'm getting ready to leave. He apologizes again to Andy. He apologizes to Danny. And then he leaves. We go back to Zach and Fatima, and we see Zach is actually preparing the couch because Fatima is making him sleep on the couch. And so he's just like, I can't believe this shit. Like, I didn't even do anything. Like, your client, if you will, came over to our house talking shit to me, acting like he wanted to fight me. His homeboy flashed a gun at me, but you are upset with me and making me sleep on the couch? This is some bullshit. That's what was going through his head. And so as he was getting ready to sit down on the couch, he actually gets a call. We did not know who actually called him. And they basically say, Karen is missing. He's like, you know what? I'll be over there in a few moments. I'll be right there. All right, y'all. So we're going to go back over to Andy's place. And so Andy and Danny, they have a very interesting conversation. So Danny's just kind of like, what was that about? And Andy's like, well, he needed some closure. And she was like, well, did he need closure or did you need closure? And she was like, shit, we probably both needed closure. Like, what is your point? Like, why are you so upset? And Danny's just like, I cannot believe you're really taking a step back. And Andy's like, look, I really don't have to explain anything to you. If I decided I want to get some closure, that's something I decided to do. Like, why are you sitting up here trying to press me? And so Danny's like, let me just pivot real quick because I really don't even care about all this right now. Do you know that Karen is missing? And Andy's just like, oh, well, why didn't anybody try to call me? And Danny's like, well, we did try to call you, but you were too busy trying to get closure from Gary. And then she was like, you know what, since we're speaking about the men that you deal with, what about Dr. Vaughn? And Andy's like, oh shit, what about Dr. Vaughn? She was like, the fact that you didn't tell us that you were on a date. And she was like, it wasn't a date, it was a business meeting. She was like, no, it was a date. She was like, no, it's a business meeting. So they kind of go back and forth. And then eventually Andy was just like, look, as I said a little bit earlier, I don't have to tell you shit. I do not have to check in with you and inform you about everything that I do. If I want to do this, I'm going to do this. If I want to do that, I'm going to do that. I don't have to explain shit to you, Danny. The two of them, they continue to talk. And so Andy, she actually decides to pivot and she goes back to talking about Karen. And she's like, you know what, as far as like Karen, does she has a baby? And she's like, yeah, she has a baby. So she's just like, shit. She's like, well, maybe she went for a drive. And Danny's like, no, her car is still there. Andy's like, well, you know what I can do? I actually have a contact, an officer that can actually do a favor for me and maybe we could go look for Karen. And Danny's like, of course you do. So Andy's like, okay, what is the problem? Like, are you fucking jealous? Like, what is the issue with you? She's like, girl, I'm not jealous because you got a bunch of men in your life. Basically, she called her a hoe without calling her a hoe. She's like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'm getting ready to leave. Bye. We go back to Karen's house and we see Lisa. She's actually calling the police because at this point we need to try to figure out what's going on. And then somebody knocks on the door and it turns out to be Zach. And Aaron's like, you smell like the bar. He was like, I smell like what? He said, you smell like the bar. Have you been drinking? And he's like, yeah, it's been a long night. And then he's like, you want to tell me what's going on? He's like, nah, that's okay. Just know it's been a long night. And he's like, you know what? As far as like Karen, have you all checked places? He was like, yeah, we checked everywhere, including the cemetery. And he's like, why would you? Oh, I know why you checked the cemetery. So that does bring like a level of sadness to Zach. And of course, remember, he's already drunk. He went through that situation with Fatima and Chad, so he's a little emotional at this point. And so Aaron does show Zach a note. And Zach is like, the end of this chapter, what exactly is she talking about? Because he's like, listen, I've known Karen for a very long time. And something I know about Karen, she's not somebody that's going to hurt her or stuff like that. That's just not the type of person that she is. And Aaron's like, well, I don't know. She's a different person. Like, ever since she has had this baby, ever since she has came home, she is somebody completely different. So the Karen that you knew is not the Karen of now. So it is possible that she may have hurt herself and may have hurt the baby. The two of them, they are talking, and Aaron's like, you know what? Do you think that maybe when she says the end of this chapter, she was referring to you? Like, maybe she was a little depressed about the conversation that you two recently had. And he's just like, nah, when it comes to being Karen, that chapter is complete, it's over. Like, we actually closed the book. And then Aaron, he starts to get into like this super like frantic mode and looks like he's gonna break down. Zach's like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, brother. You gotta keep it together, okay? And then Aaron's like, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like she did the unthinkable. I think she may have taken herself out. I feel like she may have taken a baby out. And Zach is just like, listen to me. I'm going to let you know right now that when it comes to Karen, she is fine. When it comes to your daughter, she is fine. We're just going to hope for the best. And Aaron's like, okay, fine. I'm just going to hope for the best. And when it comes to the end of the episode, there were two scenes. So in the first scene, Andy, she tried to extract some information out of Dr. Vaughn because that Karen went to meet with Dr. Vaughn. So she was hoping that he can release some information, maybe help them figure out what Karen is. But of course, he's like, you know what, I can't do that. Like, I can lose my job, I could lose my license, I could get fined. Like, that's not something I could do. And then as far as with the end of the episode, which is the last scene, Fatima, she's in bed alone, of course, because she kicked Zach out and told him to sleep on the couch. I don't even think she knows that Zach has left, right? And then her phone rings, and guess who is on the line? It's Karen. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you could, please like, comment, share, subscribe. It would be great. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.